Guess who's back in the Top Lenders in America podcast with me, Charlie Madison, and the one and only Zach, the Hammer Time Hammer from Real Estate
What's
Growth
up?
Hackers. And you're not going to believe this, but I am really excited about today's episode. And can you hear me?
I hear you now.
Perfect. Perfect. So I was talking to one of my realtor friends, and he told me about a client of his that he saw just the other day. About buddy, he lives in Tucson, Arizona, and he said he was talking to a friend, and he saw this guy from way across the street see him and say, "Tony," and just ran up to him and just gave him a big old hug. And it's a client of his, my friend's client. And he said, "I want you to know, thank you so much. I am worth $2 million now." And this kid's under 35.
Nice.
And it's through real estate. And I was just talking to my buddy Tony Ray about it. And so I wanted to share this strategy because of a couple of reasons. One, the strategy works great in a bad market. It works great for lenders and realtors. And he shared a couple things that really kind of surprised both me and him as we talked about it. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. How's that sound?
That sounds awesome.
Yeah. So the general overview, what Tony Ray's done really well, and it's cool because it's his goal is to help 20 millennials become millionaires through real estate. Right. And he's already worked with over 10, and it's just compounding. So one of the reasons that it's a really great strategy is as he was talking to his friend there, someone else overheard and said, "I couldn't help but to overhear. Like, this is a true story. What happened? Can you from me?" And later that week, he had an initial consultation with this new person that just overheard it. So it's an incredibly referable experience.
Right.
And so I talked to him for a while about, all right, why millennials? Why younger people? It could probably also work. Dinks are all the rage right now. Dual income, no kids. It could probably work for folks like that as well. And the reason he targets millennials specifically for this is, he said, one, what he's discovered is his millennial clients are very open to coaching, leadership, and guidance. They really are open to saying, "I want to go this place, please guide me." And so that's one of the huge. The other thing is they're okay being creative and not being stuck in a box, but thinking outside of the box. And he usually uses FHA or conventional loans for all of these. But he helps them. And so they just think, all right, what is this person's circumstance? And how can we help them get, the goal is 6 houses in 10 years, where they have 5 rentals and they live in the 6th one. And so one, that's really, really cool for your bottom line. And I actually asked him, I was like, "So how has this affected your business? How is it both internally, your personal satisfaction, and externally? How's it helped you?" And he said, he was actually shocked. He's like, "So for the P&L, it's a massive profit booster." And the reason is really the most scarce thing in the real estate industry, whether you're a lender, whether you're a realtor, is time. How much time do we spend with clients? We can only spend so much time. The reason you hire other people is to create that high level of service. And it's why we like compliant clients, because compliant clients are likely to close, follow suggestions, and you enjoy them. So you don't spend a whole lot of time. The time you do spend, you really enjoy. So it's a win-win-win.
Right.
And so what he said was really fascinating about this process is when he first meets with the client, he goes over, there's a lot of education involved. Like these are the types of, find out what they're looking for in their life, help them decide on the types of homes they're looking for, what their exit strategies are, or
Right.
really their staying strategies, because the goal is to keep it and rent it. But he said once he's got the first one, the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth take almost no time at all. So it's like pure relationship and profit, even to the point where, when he's got someone that's looking for their second or third, he knows what they're looking for. So he's always looking for it. And when he's getting a listing, he actually had one that had this. He was getting a listing and he knew it was perfect for one of his millennials. And so he calls millennial up and say, "Hey, here's the deal."
Right.
And you want to know what the millennial said?
What'd they say?
He said, "Great, write it up."
Love it. Love it.
Whatever it was, at that point, he trusted Tony Ray. And that's who I want as a client. I want someone that says, "You know what I want. I trust you to help me get it." And so imagine every year, every other year, now you've got one of these people where you find a house, you just tell them and they're like, "Yeah, go do it." And so now too, whenever he's earning trust with a new client, meeting someone, the economics are completely different. Instead of just, I'm going to get 5 deals over 30 years over the person's lifetime. Now I'm getting 5 or 6 deals over. I'm much more likely to pay a referral fee to another agent and be grateful about it. I'm willing to do whatever it takes on the front end to get these clients because it's going to really pay off. And the other thing that I like, of course, it's a win-win for the realtor and the lender. Like you're both developing this great relationship. So what questions do you have about that?
I don't have a ton of questions off the top of my head, but it does make me think of some things. So part of what I really like about this, I really like that it's my favorite type of sell, which is you sell once and then you make the sale multiple times. So that's why what I'm always looking for whenever possible. What's the relationship that I could get that relationship is the source of as many other deals as possible, right? Who's the connector that I could connect to? And what I really like about this one that you're describing is it actually even sounds like you're not necessarily, so like when it comes to traditionally securing investor relationships, you're often looking for somebody who already has this mindset, is already investing and is already trying to do that. It sounds like this might actually be creating an investor out of thin air, but still getting all of the benefits of those investor relationships. And what I love about that is you're getting the benefit of, hey, working with investors could be great because you know that they're trying to do as many deals as they can, right? So they're maximizing them. It's not just for their own needs. It's actually part of how they're deploying cash and all of that. So you're creating that opportunity out of thin air. That's powerful. The other thing that I really like about this is more the background mindset. So are you familiar with the concept of tacking in sailing?
You kind of go
with that as a concept,
like you go back and forth to stay on course.
So it's not even just that. It's more specifically, like I think we all fairly intuitively understand if you're in a sailboat and you've got wind behind you pushing you in the direction that you want, like that concept makes sense. Tacking is actually when you've got the opposite. You've got wind pushing against you and you're trying to go in the direction that the wind is pushing from. Right.
Okay.
And so tacking is the strategy for how you leverage the wind coming against you in order to go upwind, right? And how you position the sailboat. And so what I really like about this as a concept is more at a higher level. I think having the understanding that essentially tacking is always possible. When everybody else in the market is thinking things are tough and dire and everything's horrible, knowing that when it feels like the odds are stacked against you, there is opportunity there that many people are likely missing. So this feels like a tacking strategy, right? Where it's like, hey, it might not be what most people are used to or how you traditionally have been making business work. But when you understand that every market has some sort of opportunity and you just have to know how to leverage it in order to get where you want, having that inherent belief that exists and that is possible, I think makes you more open to these types of opportunities, if that makes sense. Makes you seek them out and find them, where it's like, where are the opportunities in the current market circumstances, whatever that looks like, right? Zigging when everybody else is zagging so that you can so you could count things that are not necessarily being understood by default. So I really love that as a concept from this, that it's a great strategy to find opportunity where many people are missing it, or maybe are thinking that the market is impacting them more
Right.
than understanding you show up in the market and what does that look like, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I love it.
Yeah, it's kind of that I'm not in the same room as the market. The market is in the same room as me.
That's right.
I'm enjoying this situation or finding the best for it. And this is similar to
Exactly.
some of the other strategies that I've seen lenders doing now. Like you can talk to the realtors
Right.
about doing cash out refis. Even in this market, even with high interest rates, 8% is cheaper than the 33% they may be on their credit card, or HELOCs, or ways to shift, handle the current market.
Right.
And this is a great one because
Exactly.
it's close to evergreen. Like we know that even if you buy a house at fair market value, and most of the raise doing, most of them are 3.5% down, FHA loan, maybe 5% down. So they're incredible leverage. And we know in 10 years it's going to almost double in price. And it's going to be paid down,
Right.
and it's going to cash flow the majority of time, if not all the time. And when they've been, they also, part of the creative financing to do it is, how do you afford your first payment? And so if you want to get into the nuts and bolts of what they've done. And so
yeah, I'd love that. So yeah, that would be like my next question, aside from just enjoying the concept. So somebody likes this idea, they're like, yeah, how do I do this? How do I do this? How do I get started? And there's two questions. There's two questions that on something like this that I think need answered. And it's one, who are the people that this works for? What are those kind of minimum criteria? So we know that we're going after millennials because of the mindset, mostly it sounds, but I'm sure there's other requirements in terms of maybe income, maybe I don't know. I don't know what those other requirements look like. So what are some of like the basic understandings on that? And then once we've got the right people, now how do we help them actually do this?
yeah, I love that. Who does this work for, and how do we help them? Someone that's looking for their first house, you've got to have, really, on your first house, you've got to have 3.5%. And that's where you work. You work with your favorite realtor. You work with the client to find out what your niche is. In Tucson, that number is, they're starting out like around $400,000 houses. Like that's what they're looking for. So 3.5% of that is roughly 15 grand. So Tony Ray, you really need 25 grand. If you do FHA, you can actually have the 3.5% given to you as a gift. So you need a lot less, depending on the market. Like here in Nashville, we can get closing cost. Depending on what, you might be able to do your first one with no money out of pocket. Now, if you're going to be doing this, you should have some reserves. And you got to qualify for a loan, right? You probably talk to your lender, see where you're at, debt to income, credit score, number one. But then it's really accepting that I'm going to buy a home for an investment, not to live in forever.
Right.
That's the other part. What it works really, really well for is folks that are paying a lot in taxes. Millennials that are making a lot of money, they're going to be paying in taxes. One of the things about owning a home, being a landlord, is there's a lot of tax breaks. And so it really like doubles and triples the value for those guys. And I would say I've talked to a few clients about this, and a lot of times for the first house, you have a roommate or multiple roommates. So if you don't know those people, the reason I say millennials, because me, I've got 4 kids. I'm not going to rent a room to a stranger. So my friend Alan and Heather, when they bought their first house, they had a roommate the first 7 years. They had their kids, they moved to another home, and they're not doing that anymore. So you've got to be comfortable renting rooms or renting space, being flexible. That's part of the millennial mindset of flexibility. And so if you can qualify for a loan, 3.5% down, and I think you're committed to figuring out a way to make it work. That's really what it is. So one of Tony Ray's clients, he worked nights, and he had roommates during the day, and so he actually never even saw his roommates. And you can rent it out room by room,
Right.
and a lot of times when the person buys, which we'll get to, once the person buys the second house, there's actually multiple options with the first house as well. And so it works for someone that's comfortable renting.
Right.
And I don't think I missed anything there.
That makes sense. Yeah. What I really love about that is that if you can clarify, like, for your market, like what sort of those minimum standards are, what level of cash you might need or not, what level of income, all you could literally potentially a way to generate appointments for people interested in this process, where you have a couple of questions that you can either do before or after, like after you get somebody on the phone, and real quick see if this is a good fit right away, or if what you could give instead is a path to become a good fit, right? A path to get there. It's like, hey, when these things start coming along, this is going to start to make sense for you. Or maybe it's, you got to work on your credit first, and here's my preferred person that I think can help you with your credit, and let's get that path going. I love that. It gives you an immediate, where you're not only, you're able to really quickly see if somebody can make this work or not, but you're also able to potentially start down the path of how can I help them get there, so that I'm building that relationship, building that opportunity for the future, and being able to make that happen. Okay, cool. And then the other thing that I love about this, so one of the things that in terms of marketing, getting your message out there, is a lot of the time it's just a matter of letting people know that there are opportunities, right? And like, they may be everyday opportunities to you, but people aren't aware of them. And, in the real estate space, whether it's creating content or sending out emails or direct mail, some of the best stuff can be things that maybe you're already aware of. Hey, there's some down payment assistance programs available. If that's something that you're interested in, reach out to me. I'd love to tell you and see if you qualify, that sort of thing. Anyway, that is a message. I'm always looking for more of those, where it's like, here's an idea for, hey, if you're looking into investing and you've never thought it was possible, or you thought that you need to be making a ton of money, we've got this thing that's working right now that's really doable, even by many of the people we talk to. If you've been interested in investing but never thought it was possible, I'd really encourage you to reach out and let me know, and we could see if this thing is a fit for you.
Right.
It's a really great thing to dangle, to see who do you have in your market, in your area, when you're creating content, who responds to this kind of stuff, to like find those opportunities, because people will reach back out. It's like, oh, you may have a ton of people that have thought, I want to be an investor, I've never thought it was possible. I love, the idea of, oh, this is possible. Okay, cool. Let me learn more. And then you find those opportunities amongst people that maybe you never would have done business with, because they didn't know it was possible. But yeah. All right, we got our ideal people. Our ideal people they're able to qualify for a loan. We're looking at kind of those entry-level home prices in the area. So it depends on the area for what those prices look like, and thus what income requirements and all that would need to look like. But whatever area we're looking to reach, kind of entry-level homes, we want somebody that's going to be flexible, willing, and to rent it out, possibly rent out another room. That's part of what I was hearing.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And then otherwise, just having that mentality of figuring out, like, what do we do to make this work, and being able to be adaptable, creative, and come up with solutions for that a bit as well. Does that sound right?
Yeah. And I think part of the magic is these millennials, if they're not dual income, no kids, like those folks, they usually make enough. They're like, okay, we can swing this payment. If you're working by yourself, right, you might be making 60, 70,000 a month. You still don't want to swing it. So the question is, do I have to get 25% down? Where am I going to get with that? And then how am I going to swing the $3,500 a month payment? So, which the payment's not always that high, but that's in their head, right? And so being able to rent out, if you get a 4-bedroom, you rent out 3-bedroom. If you've got a finished basement, like you can do that. Also, it depends where you are. Like where I'm at, we've got the USDA loan, which is 0 down, amazing. If they've got strict debt to income limits. But like I've actually had clients, now this was a few years ago, but they actually got their earnest money back at closing. We're getting closing costs again. So 0 down, get your closing costs covered. So it's giving them letting them see the opportunity. Hey, you can afford this through these options.
Right.
And
yeah, that makes sense. So it's a combination to me in terms of getting the message out there and attracting the right people. It's sort of giving them the chance at hope. It's saying, hey, this is possible. Like there's ways to make this work, and then having those conversations to figure out how to creatively get there based on who you've got with you. So we've got that. Admitting maybe not every opportunity is going to be exactly the same, because working and finding new opportunities like this means that we're probably going to need to be creative. They're probably going to need to be creative, right? But say we got somebody that we feel like, hey, I feel like I can make this work. They've got these things in line. Might be tied over here, but we got an opportunity.
Right.
So now what do we do to actually implement this strategy?
Yes, it's what we know for the first home. It's what we always do, right? We find out what they're looking for. Of course, now our leadership comes in and we make sure that it's not emotional. It's looking at it from a long-term business decision. Look at what are all the exit strategies, the staying strategy. What are all the different ways we can make the numbers work? The home. And then here's the thing that's new, that's different, that adds the value. We help them find the tenants, even if it's just in a leadership capability. I'm not talking about being a property manager, but help them. All right, some of our clients have gone to the people they work with and asked there. Right. You know, if you do get a tenant, here's some places you can go to screen them. You know, so kind of help them in that way. Think through the different options, what they're looking for. Like one of my friends, Alan, he always looked for super introverted, nerdy people, because he realized he was never going to see them. Help them with that. And then as questions arise, be there for them. Help. And then the next step is what Tony Ray always says is, and then your goal is to save up 25 grand for the next one. And that's always, you know, that's 3.5% down on 400K plus 10 grand closing costs. You know, like that pretty much covers you. Can you possibly do it otherwise? Yes, but that's just the mindset he wants them to have. So then it's being their guide and helping them learn cash flow strategies. There's a different thing, whether it's the old Dave Ramsey debt snowball or even looking at that first purchase, like what can they do with their car payments? It's being someone that can really help them to keep their first house when they buy the second. Right. The question people then ask, how can I afford the payment? How can I come up with the money for the next down payment?
That makes sense. So part of it is, so what I like about what I'm hearing you say, when you're saying you help them on this path, whether it's securing the tenants, that sort of thing, the words that I would use to describe this is you aren't fighting the battle for them, but you are equipping them for success in the battle. Correct. Right? You're making sure that they understand the tools, tactics, and strategies for how to think through those things, the tools that they might need in order to have success in finding tenants, maybe strategies for how to do that. You're not going out and actually doing the search, and you're not being the property management manager for them, but you're shortening their learning curve, which will ultimately result in success for you. So that makes sense. And then the other part of it is setting them up for success on getting them forward pacing, future pacing, and saying, like, we're not just taking care of this deal, we are also mentally already preparing for what's next, right? We're saying, like, what can we do to better allocate these dollars and be strategic about that? Honestly, I could see that making a massive difference. I know for me, going through the process of implementing Profit First in my business, and then as well as combining with strategies of how I think about allocating cash. For me, I'm using YNAB, or for other people, the envelope method of budgeting, right? Like literally even just simple tools and tactics like that of being able to say, money comes in, let me think about where I want that money to go first, rather than just looking at a bank account balance to fully determine how I want to spend the cash. Right. So like applying that same level of thinking and helping people to implement that sort of level of understanding on their finances could literally be the difference of, it's like, hey, when what they're thinking is, do I want, I don't know, this is the cliche example, but like do I want the Starbucks every day versus do I want to make my own and be able to put the extra into paying down debt or saving more cash for my next down payment? Like putting that future spending into the present really helps to really helps people to by default make better decisions. So there might be a little bit of that at play here, of just literally helping them to think about things that way, help understanding the future to set them up for success on being able to do another transaction.
Yeah. Yeah. And we've got a cash flow guide that we give our clients to think through that. I don't know if Paul gave you that. That's something that he does, where just whatever we can do to be that resource to, because once you get the second one, then it really clicks. Wow. And it might, as the lender comes in, it might be you help them with a HELOC with their current property, or you refer them to someone that gets a HELOC. We've got a great company that does 100% LTV thing.
Right.
Amazing company. It's who I've gotten my HELOC through. It's basically who most of my clients, 100%. And it's ridiculous. Have all the different strategies.
Right.
Then when they're ready for the second one, it's really rinse and repeat. And one of the cool things about this on the real estate side is now I become a market maker. That's what Dean calls it, where like I know what my buyers are looking for. And so as I get new listings or potential listings, I can really combine them sometimes before it even hits the market. Be like, hey, I know you got this, and it's just perfect because you know the numbers. It makes it really simple and seamless. It increases your profit, as a real estate agent. It's like a chance win-win being that market maker.
Right.
And once you do that, then part of it is, helping them when they move out. What's their strategy? Are they going to rent to multiple people per room? Depending where they are, that might actually be a really good idea, because then if one person moves out, a lot of times what Tony Ray's found is the other 3 tenants actually help find the new one. And it's someone they know and they like. And that way you never go down to zero unless there's just a giant mutiny, which that hasn't happened. One moves out, 2 moves out, the others fill it in. So it's a way to get more money as well. And more. So do you want to do that? Are you in a place where then you can Airbnb it? Maybe you connect with a manager. There's lots of options, and just keeping the person reminded, depending on how much money they make, it may not even have to cash flow. It could just be, hey, paying down your principal and you're getting the appreciation.
Right.
Heard someone say that's the delta, right? Your payment, your principal's going down, the value's going up, and that's what I want. I want that middle ground. And then once you've done it twice, you talk to them. Hey, when's the next 25 grand? If that's what it is, when you're ready to do the next one, and you can knock it out pretty smoothly, which is pretty cool. We know, over 10 years, the short game, you don't know about real estate, but historically the long game, you win. And then lastly, of course, this is the most referable experience in the whole real estate world.
Right.
When he came running up to Tony and hugged him, and he's all of his good friends, when he saw, oh my gosh, I'm worth $2 million. He told his best friends, and that's the people that want that are like, wow, it really is possible.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because now it moves from, think about it this way. One of the things that really helps for any referable experience is for you to remain top of mind, right?
Right.
And think about your average real estate transaction of somebody buying a property for themselves. Like, sure, there's some level of they're in the home day after day. There's that level of thinking about you. But how much more does somebody continually think about you when part of what they're seeing is here's another another rent payment coming in. Here's another rent payment coming in. Here's another rent payment coming in. And so they're thinking about they're not just seeing you as a source of where they live, they're as part of their future. Right? They're seeing you as part of, continually reminded that you're part of their future. And so you remain top of mind much more effectively than just in the home that they live in, because it's not just the thing that sort of becomes commonplace. It's also, when I'm thinking toward the future, who comes to mind? And you start to become not just part of their present, but part of their future as well. And then when they're thinking like, who do I work with for this next thing? They're thinking about you, but they're also thinking when they have other friends that are doing this sort of thing, and they're like, because think about the social dynamics. I'm becoming a property owner. Here's what my net worth is. I'm starting to be able to brag about these things, look more impressive at the family dinner and the work lunches and that sort of stuff. Right now, you are also associated with those conversations, because it's not just, hey, we have a cool house, but it's, hey, I've got this impressive thing worth talking about. That makes a ton of sense to me, of it being an incredibly referable experience as well. There's another thing that this fits in for me that I think really fits with the realtor waiting list. Do you mind if I talk about that for a second?
Please do.
So part of what I love about this is that, again, like I mentioned, I'm like, real estate is one of those interesting things of, unless somebody is in the market for a transaction, they often don't care about hearing about real estate in general, right? Like they might be interested in what their house is worth and overall big market dynamics that might be impacting like their personal home investment, that sort of thing. But there's not necessarily a ton. I could continually learn about this. I could continually hear more, dive deeper. You're either in the market or you're not. But this, as a source of content that you could do together with realtor partners, that you could do as content yourself, in order to be able to get content out in the market that helps to continually keep you top of mind, create more opportunities, create opportunities for your realtor partners. This works really well because now you've moved from this one-time transaction into this thing that has so many different facets that are worth learning more about, right? Investing in property is a business that you can get better at, you can learn more about, you can dive deeper in. So now you've got a topic that you can continually talk about that people will keep being interested in when they're the ideal fit for it, right? So like now you've moved past the sort of, I've got one time thing to take care of, into something that I'm willing and interested in continually learning about, getting better at. You've got that hamster wheel in a good way of content where you could continually talk about the same thing, talk about different angles, talk about different aspects to the strategy. That gives you a lot more bandwidth of, here's a subject that I can create lots of different pieces of content about, that will allow me to stay top of mind, allow me to create more opportunities, and give me more angles to stay in front of the market in a way that I couldn't before. So I love it for that. And it fits perfect with the realtor waiting list of being able to do duo videos, being able to do content together, being able to have more angles to get that help both you and your realtor partner as a way to drive more business. So I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. It goes into the richest people I've met, the wisest people I've met. They consume lots of information because it's the slight edge principle, right?
Exactly.
I just need one thing out of a 3-hour conference that could possibly 10x my life. And, this is content geared for those people. And it's got, it's just got so many legs like that. You can talk about it forever. And I think the only thing better than a compliant client is a compliant client that's going to buy 6 times over 10 years. Yeah.
And that's only in that 10-year horizon, right? That's just in that 10 years. Let's talk about that 30 years, right? Because that 30 years, I think that 6 turns into potentially a lot more than 6 potentially as well. Right. And not just 3 times. Like that's one of the things that I've noticed about this sort of stuff is, especially over that time horizon. Now, like you mentioned, those houses start being worth potentially double. Maybe they're starting to get to the point where they're getting paid off, paid down through what they're doing with their strategies. And so now they have a lot more cash flow to deploy because they've got cash flowing properties that are mostly paid down. And like that 6 potentially turns into 12 in the next 10 years, turns into 24 in the next 10 years after that. Right? Like it's potentially a lot. I'm just pulling numbers out randomly. The principle holds true.
And what I found is it's actually usually it's exponential. Like when I first got into real estate, I had a friend, he had it was so funny. He was in his 50s and he'd started flipping cars, then he started flipping homes, and he'd flip 2, buy 1, flip 2, buy 1. And I was like, how many doors you got? He's like, somewhere around 10, 11. He didn't know exactly. His whole life getting there. Over just 10 years, he's now over 60 doors. So 6x'd over 10 years what it had taken him 30 years, like 20 in real estate to do. And the cool thing about, you mentioned, like, it really does grow exponential. And those are the types of people I want in my life. Those are the types of people I want my kids to grow up with. I want my grandkids with. It's a fun thing.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
so that's it. That is what I wanted to share about. I love how to get more deals in a bad market. And
Love it.
I'm all about compliant clients and not working with strangers. And this, this is a group of people that it actually would work marketing wise. I could
Right.
see all your content makes sense. It's shareable content. It is, you could do a seminar on it. You could do training. Like
Right.
it grows and it's easily referable. And what's cool is you just keep getting more profitable. Imagine if you got 4 of these
Right.
people this year, and the next year you got 4. So that might be 8 deals. And then the next year you got 4 more. Now that's 12 because they're doing a deal every year. What happens if, the realtor waiting list give 4 deals a year to your top 20 realtors? What if it's these types of clients?
Right.
What happens? And yeah, I think that's it. Any last thing you want to add?
Yeah, I think just to add on top of it. So not only does the strategy make sense in and of itself by itself, but man, I think it's like adding gasoline to a great fire when you add the realtor waiting list on top of it. It gives you a tool to be able to create this opportunity on behalf of your realtor partners, to be able to help them leverage this further, to leverage this yourself, to take this concept and really be able to get it out there and getting more opportunities. Thinking through some of this, right? Knowing how the referrals while you sleep part of the systems of going out and spreading and making more connections, every opportunity that you get for this, you might technically be starting to spread out and get connected to all of the tenants that are potentially becoming first-time home buyers, right? Like you're going to probably start being seen by and creating more of these sorts of opportunities, more of these sorts of deals, regardless of whether or not they fit with this exactly. You're going to be able to show up in a way that you previously weren't for your current book of business and your current sphere and all of those people that maybe there's some opportunities there that you never thought were possible. And all of that is going to be going on autopilot in the back end without you having to do a bunch of extra to make it happen. So it takes what was already productive and turns it even more productive just by adding a slight tweak. And so I love that. So I definitely recommend, whether people are interested in this strategy or not, if you want to be able to generate an on-demand list of realtors that are ready, willing, and excited to work with you, I definitely recommend checking out the realtor waiting list. .com. That's where you could go and find out about what the program is about, get on Charlie's calendar, learn more about that opportunity, see if it's a good fit for you. They'll see if you're a good fit for them too, right? Charlie will mutually decide together, hey, does this make sense for us to work together? There is limited capacity for that. I know each month, I forget what your rollout window is, but essentially there's a cohort of people that could come in based on your current capacity for how many people you could actually help personally onboard and get into that process. So if it's something that you're interested in and you don't want to have to wait until there's room, the sooner the better. Go there, find out if it's a good fit, and see if there's availability for you to get started. If not, you might have to wait for a bit, and I'd hate for people to start later than they want to, right? So definitely go and check out realtorwaitinglist.com, leverage this strategy in really, I think, the most ideal way possible.
I couldn't have said it better myself. Thank you. And this is the episode of Top Lenders in America. I'm Charlie Madison. This is Zach, the Hammer Time Hammer, with Real Estate Growth Hackers. And we will talk to you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.
I need to hit stop.